Well, it was a combination of we now have headline risk, right? We just don't know that there's going to either be follow through on where we are. The nice, as Megan referred to, we have this implicit extension. Seems like we actually got an August 1 extension is the good news today. But that there are definitely places where the administration is going to dig in. Japan and South Korea are really important trading partners. I'm sorry. I understand that the European Union and China go ahead of them. But I do think that the headline risk for a market where we had a VIX sub 16 last week, that's really what this is. We're coming from all-time highs. We're coming off a holiday period where people, I think, also were lightly positioned and remain somewhat lightly positioned, but still very much overweight equity. So I think we're at a place here where this effective tax rate, I think we're going to hear a lot of chief economists around Wall Street begin to kind of chime through and begin to come through with some numbers on what these imputed tariffs mean, because we are getting real numbers here.
Yeah. By the way, the tariffs also don't include sectoral tariffs, so there can be more specific tariffs on steel, et cetera, depending on the industry and what the U.S. finds.
So Tim touched on it. I mean, if you look at the VIX today, up 0.31, so 1779, and the last time we had a big announcement on tariffs, obviously, was a very, very, very different story. So we've had an extraordinary run. We're just going back to Wednesday afternoon with this move today, which is really nothing. And then we had that levitation on the very light trading day. So I think this is just that people don't believe there is a tariff problem here, that it's just rhetoric, that they're going to kick the can down the road till they figure it out. This isn't what it's ultimately going to be. And sort of just a head fake. But I think we are far from seeing this kind of ultimately those kind of tariff numbers.
Yeah, and it comes down to credibility, right? So we came out in early April, and this seemed like the perfect storm. If you think about it, there was a lot of trepidation about this. There was a lot of chaos going on, I think, in and around just new policy that was being implemented away from economic sort of stuff, right? And so you had the situation where the market was actually selling off into this. Now it fell out of bed. This is that first week of April, and then they blinked, maybe because the stock market, but I think for many reasons, we all have come to learn that they were worried about the bond market, right? They were worried about, interest rates going higher. If you look at where we are right now in the 10-year, we're at like 4.4%. Now, you could say that's for other reasons, but the stock market is also obviously much, much higher than it was. So now you have the situation where, like Tim just said it, you're going to have strategists start to figure out what the implication might be on a base case scenario with tariffs across the board. Maybe it looks like 15%. You also have a Fed that seems to be worried about growth, right? They just lowered their sort of growth expectation. Make no mistake about it. If the president is going to try to say, well, we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs from these other companies or countries, that's got to come from somewhere, right? It either has to come from the supply chain, it has to come from the exporters, it has to kind of get eaten by consumers or the companies, and that's going to slow growth. So at the end of the day, you could say that we're in a much more calm environment about this, that we realize that, the taco trade, right, that they're always going to cave in or continue to push this down the road, but who knows? I mean, the president may go further with this. You have tax that went through last week, right? You have the situation geopolitically where it seems like he's got a handle on some of these big situations. They may say, listen, stock market's all-time highs. The interest rate situation seems kind of in check here. Let's see how far we can push this thing right now.